We made eye contact, and for some reason, I was scared.
It wasn't long before he dropped out of high school and took a job at a local Holiday Inn.
He worked in a hotel and had access to a master key. And during that period of time, he would hide out in rooms and watch women and become aroused and have fantasies.
And one night he saw this woman undressing and her go in the bathroom to take a shower, and he decided he wanted her. And he quietly opened the door and walked in, and she was just getting out of the shower, and he came up from behind her and he planted his hand over her mouth, and he brought it down, and he was in the process of raping her. Her husband, who had gone to park the car, came in right in the middle of the rape, and her husband beat him to a pulp.
In the morning, he was booked and taken to court. But the couple who lived out of town wanted nothing more to do with the ugly affair. They refused to return to El Paso, and the charges were dropped. Richard had gotten away with rape.
Very early on, Ramirez had two critical learning experiences that suggested somehow that the ugliest and most satanic forces operating in him could operate with impunity and without punishment.
At the age of 17, with these dreadful demons dancing in his head, Richard began hanging out with his cousin Mike, the disturbed Vietnam veteran who had been released from the mental hospital. They got high on drugs and fantasized about violent sex. A year later, in 1978, he left El Paso for Los Angeles, where he turned his fantasies into horrifying reality.
The day he stepped off the bus, he stepped right into this world. You look left and there's somebody offering you a gun. You look right and there's a woman trying to sell sex. He was like a kid in a candy store.
For some serial killers, that is the very act of killing another human being that is sexual to them. There is no protection against a mad killer, a mass murderer.
On July 20th, 1985, the same night he brutally killed Max and Lyra Knighting, Ramirez entered the home of an Asian couple, Chanarong Hovana, and his wife Samkid. He killed Chanarong, his 10th victim, and raped his wife. He left her alive, but as in 5 of his previous murders, he'd left shoe prints from his unique Avia sneakers. The police began to think he was baiting them.
And a number of serial killers begin to imagine that they're killing spree as a contest between them and law enforcement and them and society. And as the efforts to catch them become more public, more energetic, their success at getting away with homicide proves to them their extraordinary powers. Here are all these educated detectives, policemen, psychologists, psychiatrists, and he can triumph over all of them.
But this victim, too, got a good look at him, and Samkid gave the police a detailed description of her attacker. They released the information to the press. The tabloids soon dubbed him the Night Stalker.
Los Angeles police today added more killings to those already linked with the murderer called the Night Stalker.
He became front-page news. The gory details of his killings splashed across the country's newspapers and television sets. But still, he stalked the night.
I'm very upset. It's frightening and I'm scared.
Everybody is real urgent.
We have diligently tried to lock all the doors and windows.
Yet the killer was living undetected less than a quarter mile from police headquarters in a cheap rooming house in downtown LA. He'd been there since leaving El Paso in 1978. Since then, he'd become a petty thief and a drug addict.
He was shooting up cocaine. It was like fueling his psychosis. It was adding to whatever problems he had. It was getting worse and worse and worse. He needed a lot of money, and he got the money by burglarizing houses.
Satan was still a vital part of his life. He even traveled to San Francisco to visit a coven of devil worshippers.
At one point in time, he had the opportunity to be a member of an organized satanic cult. He elected not to do that. His grandiosity did not allow him to share his place with Satan with others. He was something in his mind more special.
By 1983, Richard's life in Los Angeles was a downward spiral of drugs, pornography, prostitutes, and theft.
His family, they knew something was wrong. They were worried. He wasn't calling, he wasn't writing letters. His sister, who was very close to him, came up to Los Angeles and El Paso.
She begged him to come home to the haven of his family and their religion, but he told her he was now under the protection of Lucifer. 5 months later, he was arrested for car theft. He was photographed and fingerprinted and spent 6 months in jail. His prints were now on record, but that wouldn't stop him from murder. When he was released in June of 1984, he would kill for the first time. And a year after that, knowing that one mistake could be his last, he began an appalling spree of rape and murder that shocked the world. On August 8, 1985, Ramirez drove 30 miles from downtown Los Angeles to the city of Diamond Bar. He cruised to a stop on a quiet street. He then entered the house of Elias Abelwab and his wife Sakina. While their 3-year-old slept, he murdered Elias and repeatedly raped his wife. Before he left, he calmly ate a melon he found in the refrigerator. This was his 13th murder, and the police were no closer to him. He was literally running circles around them.
He was entering different police jurisdictions, and the police were not cooperating with him. LAPD didn't tell the sheriff's office what they knew. Glendale police did not tell the sheriff's office what they knew. The Monterey Park police found a footprint that belonged to the killer. They did not even tell the sheriff's office about the footprint.
The police were facing a barrage of criticism. Then, surprisingly, the Night Stalker struck 300 miles north of Los Angeles in San Francisco. There, on August 18th, he murdered an elderly Taiwanese couple. LA detectives Frank Salerno and Gil Carrillo heard about the killing on a police TV channel, checked the details with the San Francisco police, and rushed north. But just as they began to gather evidence, the San Francisco mayor publicly released information critical to the case. She mentioned the piece of physical evidence linking the Night Stalker to almost all of his crimes, the Avia shoe prints. The Los Angeles police were livid.
It places this community in jeopardy because it impedes our ability to go forward fully with the investigation.
Shortly after the press conference, Ramirez walked onto the Golden Gate Bridge and tossed his shoes and gun into the bay. Then he stole a car and drove south of Los Angeles into Orange County. He had gotten rid of the evidence, but he couldn't rid himself of the desire to kill.
In order to understand the Night Stalker's crimes, you have to understand we're talking about a reincarnated Jack the Ripper. We're talking about an individual who gets off by plunging a knife into somebody.
And serial killers and most killers in general have a dead conscience. To detectives to apprehend serial killers, they need to get inside the mind of a serial killer.
On August 24th, 1985, just 1 week after his last murder in San Francisco, Ramirez drove south of LA to Mission Viejo. There, he shot Bill Carnes in the head. Then, he raped his fiancée.
This quiet neighborhood is over 50 miles from the stalking grounds around L.A., but Orange County investigators say they are certain that it was the same man who struck here early this morning.
She had been awakened in the residence early this morning by gunshots. She stated that when she woke up, there was an intruder in her room. The intruder grabbed her, he sexually assaulted her, and tied her up.
The Night Stalker was unpredictable. That was one of the reasons the police always seemed just a few steps behind him.
The victims were all over the spectrum. The way he selected victims were all over. He changed weapons. I mean, he used his hand. He did strangle. He did shoot. He did stab. He used a crowbar. He used his foot in one case where he stomped a woman to death. So he didn't fit a classic pattern as law enforcement knew serial killers. And that's what made it different.
With the growing hysteria, Ramirez knew it was time to get out of town. He ditched the stolen car and took a Greyhound bus to Arizona. But he left town without knowing a crucial clue had been left behind. The night of the crime, a teenager outside fixing his bike had seen him.
And he saw this guy drive by that looked just like a composite sketch of the Night Stalker. And the kid got the license plate number. The police suddenly had the license plate number of the car the guy was in.
They found the abandoned car in Orange County. While processing it, they discovered a clue on the rear view mirror.
And apparently what happened, it was a very, very hot night. He took off his gloves at a point in time and he adjusted the mirror, and he left one print.
Finally, California's new fingerprinting system had now come online. When the fingerprint was processed, it matched the prints of a petty thief who had stolen a car in 1984 and spent 6 months in jail. The cloak of darkness in which he had hid himself was now torn off. The Night Stalker finally had a name: Richard Ramirez. His face was plastered on TV screens and newspapers. Police units were on alert all over the city. The biggest manhunt in Los Angeles history was in full swing.
So we felt once the name went out and the photograph went out, that Richard would try to escape from Los Angeles through the Greyhound bus depot.
Everyone was on the lookout for Ramirez, but the police were wrong again. As they meticulously staked out each bus depot exit, hoping to snatch him as he left, Ramirez arrived.
We didn't know that Richard was somewhere in Arizona in Phoenix trying to visit his brother, and he was coming back into town.
When he got off the bus, Ramirez saw the detectives, but he remained calm.
And he walked right past his turnpike. He went to a grocery store to buy coffee. At the same point, the woman in the back of the store recognized him, and she turned as white as a ghost.